Hi everyone, we're gonna get started. It is the House Democratic Caucus and we are caucusing on H 527, which we just heard the floor report on. And we were getting some questions, so we thought it would be good to break and make sure we could have a robust discussion. So I'm gonna let Representative James start and then Representative Sibilia will fill in.
Or provide the details. Thanks everybody for being here. And yeah, we were getting some questions. It's always good to take a break and make sure we have a chance to think about what we're voting on. So as Representative Sibilia explained on the floor, for some number of years, we have had an alternative streamlined process for citing cellular infrastructure, telecoms infrastructure in Vermont, and it's set out in a section of statute that we've just been calling 248A. And every 3 years, we return to this section of statute to see how it's working for Vermonters and typically have extended the sunset another 3 years. That 248A process is set to expire at the end of this year, which is why we're here, again, having this important conversation. And just so folks understand, if the 248A process, if we do not pass a bill and 248A expires as it's set to do at the end of this year, then cell tower siting moves to Act 250. So that is the default. So we took quite a bit of testimony in our committee. I'd say extensive and heartfelt testimony. And as you know, I don't think there's much argument with what we heard in committee and what Representative Pritchard presented on the floor, which is that the 248A process does need to be improved. It's hard for towns to engage in. It's hard for Vermonters to engage in. It's not ideal. We also heard in committee sort of how we might improve it in incremental ways. And so as Laura explained, the approach that the House had originally taken was to extend the sunset, so give this alternative path 4 years, but require the PUC to engage in a really robust public workshop and come back in a year with substantive recommendations about how we could improve the process. The Senate didn't like that idea so much. They went back to another 3 years for this process, but made some changes to the underlying statute that, as Representative Sibilia explained, actually changed the process, we believe, for the better, faster, which is why 6 of us on the committee voted to concur. What the bill that we're presenting before you today would do would be it would give this process another 3 years to live on, but it would change it right away by requiring that the municipality hold a public hearing, or that there be a public hearing hosted by the select board or the planning commission, so right in the community, that it be duly warned, that the cell tower developer be there to answer questions directly from citizens, and that the Department of Service also attend in its important role as a consumer advocate. So this is a pretty, we believe anyway, a helpful step that we can take right now without reverting cell towers to Act 250. Why not? I am speaking for myself here, but I believe at least a few other or a majority of members on the committee that Act 250 is in a fairly significant transition right now, and that this might be the ideal time to move cell tower siting to 250. That's something we talked about quite a bit in our committee. I think the only other thing I would say is that about Representative Pritchard's amendment, which we voted unfavorably, and we are asking you to vote no today, is that by moving the sunset back to 2027, it means that this alternative process would end in a year. And while it would put the pressure on the legislature to act next year, it also, we heard in testimony this morning, a written testimony from CTIA, which is the Wireless Association, that it could have pretty significant unintended consequences that are very hard to predict right now. One is that cell tower developers could just stop building and wait to see what the legislature does next year. They called it a de facto moratorium. Or we heard in committee that whenever the sunset approaches, that developers rush to build towers as quick as they can and get it done before the sunset ends. So that puts a lot of unknown pressure, we believe, on a date that's just a year from now. So I think that is a bit of a summary. And it sounds like Representative Sibilia and or Campbell would like to weigh in.
So I would just add that the 248A is due to sunset this year. And so we have pressure on us this year to examine this policy. And we have taken a lot of testimony. We've met with the PUC and with the department. I think that we still have concerns, but we thought that this was an appropriate, both the workshop that would have brought back recommendations next year, but also this process, which is actually significantly improved from what's happening right now. Having the department, having a mandatory meeting in the town with the developer and the department is a very significant change. And so we felt that pressure this year. We took a lot of testimony. We really thought about this in committee, and we definitely think we need to keep coming back to this. But we feel like we've put forward a good process, a good bill after a good process.
Yeah, I just want to highlight that the Public Utility Commission is a quasi judicial process. It's a very rigid process. And I think that the fact that it is, and the fact that that was where people who had concerns about a siting plan had to go to have their input on the process, that was very difficult for the average person, not bringing a lawyer with them to go through that process. So the significance of having the Public Service Department required to be at the public hearing, first of all, that there has to be a public hearing, that the proponent or the sponsor of the cell tower has to be there, and the Public Service Department has to be there. The significance of that is that the Public Service Department is the consumer advocate for folks before the Public Utility Commission. So by having these things be required and not optional, as they are currently in statute, that really is going to make the process much more friendly to the public. So that is the significance of having that change. And I think it is an important change. Actually, early in the process, I thought we should just do that. But the idea of sort of revamping the process also seems like a good idea. So anyway, we didn't get that revamping, but we did get this Public Service Department involvement.
All right, we have time for a couple questions, Will. And then Bob.
Will Greer Bennington. I'm curious if you have some of this information to share. How many cell tower projects are currently happening right now in Vermont? And how many do they project over the next 3 years? Did that come out and testify?
I do not have that.
We knew
information
that.
Oh, you said you.
No, we did get.
Okay.
We can get that.
Yeah, we did get testimony to that effect. I just don't remember the numbers.
And I guess my other thing is timeline wise, if it were to go back to Act 250 jurisdiction, how slow would that make the cell tower process for development from start to finish exponentially?
I mean, I think that all depends on the applicant, where they're trying to cite it, what the district commission is, all sorts of things. So
Thank you.
Right now, we did see in the testimony posted this morning that right now, start to finish on, I believe a new build or like a large project, it's an 18-month to 2-year timeline. I think they said from project design to.
Under current law.
expedited.
Yeah, under the expedited law. So, and that testimony, obviously Pritchard's amendment is posted on our committee page, but so is the kind of rebuttal response we heard this morning from the wireless folks.
Another question.
My work on all the accounts. By way of introduction, I have to say this will be somewhat expensive, but vote to support the committee because I almost always do and said I would. I have two questions. One, did you explore with the maker of the amendment a 2-year extension instead of a 3?
We did not, you brought us a 1 year.
Secondly, did you ever discuss intervenor compensation?
We did not.
I have to say, and the third question, I don't remember. This community hearing, does the PUC hold the hearing or does the Public Service Department?
Municipality.
The municipality,
But does the commission have to attend?
No, the department.
I just want to say I'll support it and I like the 248 process because I think it's the only way we're going to get decent cell service. But my own experience is that hearings like that are usually for show. And that if you really want to have an effect, you need to be before the PUC, you need a lawyer. And the only way to do that and be fair to towns is to compensate them through intervenor compensation. Not having the PUC there in person is, I think it'll just be process. But I will support it.
that is certainly not the hope, obviously. We talked a lot about the fact that a municipal hearing at the town hall or at the school or, wherever folks are used to going would be significantly less intimidating and easier for folks to engage with. So, that would be the hope. It's interesting when you take on a difficult issue like this. We heard from, and I'm so glad we did, we heard from many Vermonters who have struggled with this process. Who you don't hear from usually when the legislature is engaging with an issue like this is the folks who would be disappointed or discouraged if we got to a place where cell tower construction in Vermont halted or became really onerous or started going up in a rush. I mean, folks do want coverage, and from the beginning, that's what we've been trying to balance here.
Laura from Weston. Just to point out that this would also cover, of all the applications, about 80% of them are so-called de minimis.
Yeah.
Which means you're changing out some equipment or somehow upgrading an existing tower. And so all of those are going through 248A quickly and easily. What we're talking about here is the contested applications, which are like under 10 a year. And they're seriously problematic, but if we change the whole thing, like all those de minimis applications also would end up going to Act 250. And right now, they're just kind of, mostly administrative. So that we did take weeks of testimony, and it's more complicated than, unfortunately, it would appear.
Thanks, Rep. Monk.
All right, we have to, go ahead. And last one.
Thank you, Pam, that's Mike from Wastefield. So can you just clarify, because I thought you had said that the PUC would be part of this public process along with municipalities, the public. So they are not
The Department of Public Service.
Department of Public Service.
Yeah,
not
they have a
PUC.
very different role to play in this. The PUC in this case is essentially the court or the quasi judicial setting where the hearing plays out. The Department of Public Service would be attending this hearing in the role it plays as a consumer advocate. So very different.
One more.
David Durfee from Shaftesbury. The one experience that I've had dealing with the PUC and for a project in our community, it was not for this kind of project, but for another. We asked them if they would come, and they were happy to come. They held a hearing, a public hearing, maybe is what it was called, but it was for the community. They all came, they answered questions. It was helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have to go back to the floor. We are, I want to quote Chris, although I forget what he said, but that they took weeks of testimony. The work is done in the committee. We are following the committee. We're encouraging you to vote no. On the amendment, yes on the bill.